Hello there, everyone. How you doing today? Today we're going into r/askreddit, where we're going to find out the answer to what's the most extreme example of what you've seen as die as a hero or live long enough to become the villain, right? We're going to read the answers to that. Remember to like and subscribe, or I'm going to steal your kneecaps, break them, and drink Dr. Pepper out of them. I. Let's get started, shall we? It's a weird example, all things considered, but if Hermann Goring hadn't survived World War I, he would probably be remembered in the same way as the Red Baron. So, not really a hero by today's standards, but far from the monster we remember him as. It's in a similar vein, but Philippe Pétain went from hero general who helped the French win World War I to criminal fascist puppet during World War II. If Benedict Arnold died of his wounds at the Battle of Saratoga, he would be remembered as one of the Revolution's bravest, boldest fighting men. Instead, he came to feel, with some reason, overlooked for his accomplishments and unfairly targeted by enemies in Congress, which led to his attempted betrayal of West Point. Jim Jones. It is said that he would have died in the 60s if he would have been memorialized as a civil rights hero. He was the first to integrate churches in Indiana. He pressured local restaurants to allow African Americans to be able to eat there. He paid the bills of the poor. Many lived in his house, and he adopted needy kids of various ethnicities. He opened soup kitchens in rough neighborhoods, no cost of nursing homes, and lived a modest life with little to his name to make it all happen. He also toured the evangelist circuits to make large sums of money, just about all of which went to support his poor congregation, of which there were thousands of members. After many years of this service, something happened. Drugs, narcissism, paranoia, and wild ideologies that pushed him into a complete monster. He convinced about these poor people to follow him into a jungle to live out their communist fantasies, only to be murdered by Jim. 618 men, women, and children, including Jim and his wife, died by poisoning on a single day. If you've not read A Road to Jonestown, I highly recommend it. Jones was a master of organization, beginning from a child when he arranged a junior basketball tournament or some such thing, which promptly ended when he seriously injured a puppy as a joke. He'd organized the younger children into parties to play soldiers, which promptly turned into him organizing children into playing... I can't say that on YouTube, but let's just say it starts with an N and had to do with Mustache Man. You see the pattern. Everything he organized would eventually turn extreme, mostly because he got bored and tried to recapture that feeling of excitement lost over time. Ideology, love, religion, all meaningless to him. Simply tools used to attract people into his orbit. His marriage turned into a harem. His church turned into a cult. Voluntary tithes and financial aid turned into people turning over their entire personal wealth to him to control. Amateur marriage counseling turned into him prescribing his own wiener as treatment for either control. Amateur marriage counseling treatment for either spouse. Drugs to keep his insane workload alive turned into a lifelong addiction into amphetamines that turned his already stressed brain into mush. The turning point of his adult life as a failed evangelizing trip to Brazil, which, coupled with his nuclear paranoia, provided the seed for guania, but the pattern was always there. By the end of it all, he was sick of the madness. It's clear from the tapes that he had strung himself and his followers along so far, and lied and lied and lied so much that he was just as trapped as they were. He should have just let go, but his narcissism prevented him from accepting failure. The failure in Brazil had destroyed his ego, and you've got to presume that for a narcissist, that hurt worse than anything. Worse than death, even. So after a year of riling up his followers, torturing them with white knights, straight up sadistic punishments, and backbreaking physical labor, from which he expected a new community to arise, he simply gave up, using a disastrous visit by Congressman Leo Ryan as pretext. Jones committed to self-unaliving, taking all of his possessions, human or otherwise, with him. Vats of flavor aid laced with cyanide, forced to the mouths of the numerous infants there, people held down and forced to ingest it, others taking it willingly. Some parents off their children before changing their minds upon seeing their convulsions. Many people were simply shot. The elites in the temple, Jones and his council, his harem, and his family, all chose the bullet. All while Jones ranted, presumably getting one last fix from the scene before a bullet was put in his head. For me, he's a human animal, addicted to himself, addicted to extremes, addicted to ambition, and willing to do or say anything to achieve what he wants. TLDR! The man was always a wanker. Aung San Suu Kyi won a Nobel Peace Prize in 1991 for being an imprisoned nonviolent opposition leader in Myanmar. She came to power in 2015 and became complicit in the genocide of the Rohingya people. I mean, a Nobel Peace Prize laureate sitting in the International Court of Justice in The Hague, defending genocide. Sometimes in life, you have to hit the curb in order to remember where the middle of the road is. But she took it to the max. In real life, Rudy Giuliani, you may not recall, but for years after 9/11, or 9/11, I can't remember which one that was, he was considered a hero in America. They used to call him America's mayor affectionately. His fall from grace has been both stunning and a bit pathetic. Bill Cosby, America's dad to a convicted assaulter in the naughty degree. Philippe Pétain, one of France's heroes of the First World War. He became starts with N, has to do with Mustache Man, collaborator-in-chief during the Second World War in 1940, at the age of 84. Lance Armstrong, world's greatest athlete to world's greatest cheater and a prick. I don't really remember that one. I'll have to research it later. Blizzard Entertainment. It used to be the gold standard of gaming companies, but now it's just another greedy corporate entity. Not an example, but an exception. Jimmy Savile. The guy died a hero and was revealed to be a massive monster. Ellen DeGeneres. Maybe she was always an asshole, but the fact she went from America's quickest, danciest talk show host to a POS celebrity is so bizarre. The LGBT community championed her for decades until the scandals. I was a big Ellen fan and watched the show daily, and I admit, I doubted a lot of the allegations because, surely, Ellen can't be a bad person, right? Suffice to say, I was very wrong. Robert Mugabe, ex-president of Zimbabwe. When he got rid of the colonial powers, he was praised as a hero and liberator, only to end up as a POS. Africa seems to suffer from these types a lot, to be honest. That's why Nelson Mandela was a real one. He broke the cycle. Maximilian Robespierre. The dude was against the death penalty in France during the revolution for such a long while. Then he... I would say lost his mind and enacted the Reign of Terror. At least until he had his own head chopped off anyways. TLDR. Chop, 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 chop. Jared from Subway, the fat bastard. Sir Jimmy Savile, adored by the public, celebrities, politicians, and royalty. He was a child naughty assaulter and a necrophiliac. Oh boy, that's bad. A quote by Chinese revolutionary and political leader Chen Yun comes to mind. Had Mao died in 1956, his achievements would have been immortal. Had he died in 1966, he still would have been a great man but flawed. But he died in 1976. Alas, what can one say? Mao had done the impossible and led the peasants and workers of China against all odds into an incredible victory of a China for the people instead of the powerful. Unfortunately, that's when the traits that made Mao into an incredible guerrilla leader ran into the issue that is reality. Turns out you can't just human effort into industrialization, and going too fast leads to catastrophe, something that was warned but ignored. It turns out when you demand constant perfection, your subordinates will be too scared to tell you that their people are starving, and that you're collecting too much food from them until it's too late. It turns out when you assume you're always right and assume anyone speaking out against you must be a secret enemy, you'll begin harming your friends and supporters in your desperate search for enemies, both real and imagined. I tell people how I feel that history shows that nearly every human being has the capacity in them for both great good and horrible evil, and few figures show that as effectively as Mao. And that's the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. Maybe leave a comment with your thoughts. I sure as heck don't know. Anyway, see ya!